Bill Gates has declared that the CDC's childhood vaccine schedule, 72 shots and counting, isn't nearly enough. Now, he wants to go even further by injecting mRNA into babies before they're born. That's right, in the womb. If that doesn't set off alarm bells, especially after the deadly fallout of the COVID vaccine rollout, it's time to look at what Gates is already doing in the developing world, because that's where the plan is being perfected right now. In countries like Kenya and India, Gates is backing programs that inject biometric ID systems, tying access to healthcare, education, communication, even food, to compliance, with an expanding list of mandatory vaccines. These aren't public health measures. They're systems of control, disguised as humanitarian aid. And suddenly, what the so-called fact-checkers have been dismissing as conspiracy theory just became conspiracy facts. What's being tested on the vulnerable today is being quietly prepared for the rest of the world tomorrow. And once the system is locked in, you and your children are next. They've given themselves 20 years. That's the timeline the Gates Foundation has set for completing what many are now calling the final phase of the globalist agenda. A worldwide rollout of mandatory vaccinations, biometric digital IDs, and surveillance infrastructure so invasive it makes Orwell look like an optimist. And it doesn't stop at the living. According to Bill Gates himself, the future of public health includes forced vaccinating unborn children, injecting mRNA technology in the womb, and embedding microchips that will link directly to a child's digital identity the moment they're born. No consent, no choice, just a click of a button and you're in the system forever. This isn't speculation. This is their blueprints, their mission. And in the words of the Gates Foundation's own internal slogan for this phase, just keep going. Because that's exactly what they plan to do, until humanity has nowhere left to hide. In a recent press release, the Gates Foundation announced the dystopian plan to vaccinate babies in utero, while lauding the work of Dr. Shabir Madhi, a South African vaccinologist now developing what Gates is calling the new frontier in immunization, maternal vaccines, shots given to babies in the womb.
What do you do when you're trying to stop babies from contracting a deadly respiratory virus like RSV?
RSV is a leading cause of hospitalization for children.
You keep going.
So I've been working on the clinical development of RSV vaccines for just over 20 years.
Keep going.
Just in the past 2 years now, we've had 2 new interventions against RSV to protect babies in that first year of life.
The promo video doesn't spell it out, it's vague, polished and sanitized for public consumption. But dig a little deeper on the Gates Foundation website and you'll find it. The first so-called intervention in their roadmap is nothing short of dystopian. Force vaccinating babies in the womb using mRNA technology. The same mRNA technology the FDA recently admitted has been causing the spike of cardiac arrests around the world post-2021. As if the 72-dose childhood vaccine schedule on the CDC's books wasn't already overwhelming. Bill Gates and his global health allies are now working on a prenatal vaccine regimen, a schedule for the unborn. Does this sound like progress to you?
See, when you've dedicated your life to saving lives, you keep going.
It's the excitement of knowing that when we make a difference, it's not only influencing the life of one child, but hundreds of thousands of children.
Because in the face of every problem, there are people who prove that progress is possible. The Gates Foundation, partners of human potential.
This is where it gets really dark. Because it's not just about injecting mRNA into unborn children. Bill Gates is now pushing for biometric digital ID, microchipped directly into the baby. Let that sink in. A child still in the womb, marked, tagged, with a digital identifier that links to a centralized system. Surveillance from before birth. Control from day zero. Now, if you think this sounds too wild to be true, you should know that he's already been caught doing it. For years, Gates has treated the developing world as his personal lab, testing grounds for high-risk pharmaceuticals, vaccine trials, biometric ID programs on the poorest and most vulnerable. And he's not hiding it. Gates himself admitted on camera that he sees India as a testbed to trial new biomedical technologies.
And it's kind of a laboratory to try things that then, once you prove them out in India, you can take to other places. And so our biggest non-U.S. office for the foundation is in India. And then most number of pilot rollout things we're doing anywhere in the world are with partners in India.
But as dark as his track record in India is, it doesn't compare to what he's doing in Kenya as we speak. In Kenya, the agenda has evolved. It's no longer just about vaccines or disease prevention, it's about digital population control. Partnering with NGOs and health ministries, Gates is backing programs that implant biometric ID systems, tying individuals' access to healthcare, education and even food to whether they're compliant with a growing list of biomedical requirements.
Hold up, Kenya's trying to do what now? I mean, I read this in a book once and it didn't turn out too well. Check this out.
Now, let me just put it blatantly to you. The program targets the birth of new babies. So once you have your baby, before your baby leaves the hospital, you no longer get a paper birth certificate, but then you get a digital one that is somehow implanted somewhere on somebody's body. Think about that. But have a listen to this.
The digital ID, which has been a big problem to us for a very long time, is now on a testing mode for the next 2 months. I have been assured by all the stakeholders, led by the ministries concerned, that by December we will be able to launch digital ID, where every Kenyan don't have to carry any paper, plastic or otherwise as an ID. They should be able to be identified digitally.
We're taking things that are genetically modified organisms and we're injecting them in little kids' arms.
They're calling it public infrastructure in their carefully worded press releases. We're calling it what it is, a prison without bars. Behind the language of inclusion, equity and sustainability lies a ruthless system of control. Because Gates isn't interested in freedom or health, he's interested in monopoly. Monopoly over food, over medicine, over movement, over data, over you. And it's not just theoretical. The control grid is already being perfected.
Do you know it's illegal now for me to share my organic seeds with my neighbor? Yes, it's illegal by law. They even created now a law to give the international organizations rights through patenting of their seeds. Patenting of their seeds. Foreigners to patent their seeds here. And those are the seeds you must use, and you're not supposed to use any other seeds. And that's why there's that discussion of fake seeds, fake what. Today, organic seeds, Lynn, are called fake seeds because they are forcing us to go into the new world order agenda of what we call genetically modified seeds, GMO seeds. GMO seeds are lab-created seeds. They produce food. But with it comes so many factors that raise eyebrows.
Gates has already engineered dependency in Africa. He's turned farmers into tenants on their own land, forced to buy sterile, high-cost GMO seeds year after year from corporations he bankrolls. Control the seeds, you control the food. Control the food, you control the people. But Gates isn't stopping at the farm. Now he's coming for the children. And he's not just injecting them with synthetic mRNA, he's embedded the hardware of control directly into the human body. Microchips, biometric sensors, digital ID. And if you think this ends with India or Africa, you're not paying attention. There is a plan, a coordinated global rollout to bring this technology to every corner of the world. We already know who's behind it. Now we are going to explain how they plan to trick parents into allowing microchips and digital ID systems to be implanted in their babies in the womb, all under the guise of health and safety. Bill Gates and his allies at the World Economic Forum weren't joking when they said the unvaccinated would be excluded from society. This isn't some hypothetical far-off dystopia. It's happening, right now, in nations where Gates has managed to buy influence, corrupt leadership, and experiment on entire populations without accountability. He's not just theorizing, he's implementing. Gates has openly declared a future where the human body becomes a walking Wi-Fi connected computer, a data node in a global network. The foundation for this plan? Hydrogel lipid nanoparticle, a microscopic delivery system that doesn't just carry mRNA, it can interface with biosensors, track your movements, and feed real-time biometric data into AI surveillance grids. What they're testing is more than public health, it's predictive policing. It's biometric control. It's turning the human body into a machine-readable asset. And if you think that's extreme, just look at what happened in Nigeria. 73 million people cut off from their cell phone networks, denied health services, blacklisted from society. Their crime? Refusing to get vaccinated.
To finish up with Bill Gates, he said this technology, the hydrogel, the nanolipid particle, that it's inside. It's a drug delivery like they say they're doing here. But he says this in his research. He says, since it's already in there, we decided to go ahead and experiment with these people and test it out for surveillance and predictive policing. That means, just like I was telling you from my meetings, it is to spy on them, gather all the data from the biosensors, and accumulate it to a supercomputer, the AI program they have, and then do meaning they're going to supercomputer will analyze it to see if you're a good or bad person. And then if you're not a good person on their narrative, you get reprimanded somehow. They didn't say how. And so if you're not getting the shot, you get locked out of the system. So just recently in Nigeria, which is part of Bill Gates' program, 73 million would not get the shot. They cut them all off from their SIM cards and their cell phones. So wow. Here you see their plan there. And so people tell me, oh, it's just Africa. Well, we should care first. You got to care about your brothers and sisters around the world. And then Bill Gates said once it's perfected there, they plan all developed nations will get this. And this is not just him, the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, Davos, all these people, they're talking about not just 2030, but 2027. They increased their deadline here to get every human on this planet connected via Wi-Fi. Their body will be a walking Wi-Fi computer and connected all the time. And this is why I'm warning everybody. I'm telling them they're not telling you the truth. This is a human rights issue. To me, it's a human trafficking issue, and just goes against everything I believe in.
The link between the global control grid and the digital ID rollout can no longer be dismissed as theory, because this isn't just about surveillance, it's about predictive policing, a future straight out of Orwell's 1984, where crimes are punished before they are even committed, based on biometric data and behavioral algorithms. As HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. warned, vaccines have already been weaponized to secretly sterilize young women. So ask yourself, is this the man you trust to inject mothers-to-be with multiple doses of next-generation mRNA?
WHO, with Gates's influence, support, participation, administered 1 million vaccines to Kenyan women that designed to sterilize them without their knowledge and against their will. Pretending it was a tetanus program that included in the tetanus vaccines, without anybody knowing, human gonadotrophic hormones, which interact with tetanus toxoids as essentially a chemical castration drug for women. And he gave that to WHO. Gave that to at least 1 million women in Kenya, and they had similar programs in Nicaragua and Mexico and the Philippines, which clearly they were doing that, although we don't have the files. We got the files from Kenya, so we know what they were doing, and they've admitted it.
They've admitted that they secretly sterilized African women against their will and without their knowledge?
And I would urge you to read this chapter in my book. They've admitted that there was first denied that there was human gonadotrophic hormone in that vaccine, which there's no reason it should have been, and then admitted that there were. But if you read my book, you'll read that for 20 years, WHO has been spending tens of millions of dollars developing these sterilization drugs to surreptitiously give women. Now, this sounds paranoid, but they've published papers on it.
Well, as you already established, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. No. I'm saying WHO has paid researchers to find ways to chemically castrate women.
Against their will and without their knowledge.
Well, we don't know.
Well, that's a relevant factor. Some women get an IUD put in. Some women get their tubes tied.
Of course it is. All I can tell you is from the papers, it's just saying these are studies that are developing drugs. They're saying, here's how this works, and we test it on people, and it works. And then when it came time for them to use those products that WHO spent all those years developing, they gave it to 1 million women surreptitiously without their knowledge. So the papers don't say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to sneak up on them and ambush them. The papers say, here's how you develop this vaccine, and you hide it in a tetanus vaccine. And then when it actually came time for them to do the program, they did not tell the women. And they were caught by the Catholic Medical Association of Kenya, who noticed that, first of all, usually when you give a tetanus vaccine, you only give one dose, and it's good for 10 years. But they were told to give 5 doses in 6 months, which made the doctors, the Catholic Medical Association, say something's wrong here. And it was only given to women of childbearing years, women from 14 years old to, I think, 34 years old, which was weird because men also get tetanus. Third, there was no tetanus outbreak at that time. That's when the Catholic Doctors Association got a hold of the vials, and they tested them in 6 different labs, and they all came back, or most of them, not all of them, but most of them came back and said, yeah, they contain this drug. Have they explained why the HGH was in the vaccine? There's no reason to put it in the vaccine. Initially, they said it's not in there, and now they're saying in the current ones it's not in, but they admitted that it was in the ones that the Catholic Doctors Associations tested, and they could not. They said, oh, it's in there, but it wasn't put in there to sterilize women, and it's not in large enough.
And they say it's
quantity.
safe. I mean, and they say that the vaccines are safe and that they're there to protect women and their newborn babies from tetanus. Yeah. So, I mean, look, we're out on a thin reed talking about the intentional sterilization of women in Africa without their consent or knowledge.
The evidence is very well documented.
You're suggesting there was an intention to sterilize women without their consent.
They spent 20 years studying the inclusion of HGH in tetanus vaccines as a way to sterilize women. Then they included HGH in a tetanus vaccine program that they gave to 1 million women without telling them. So, you can connect whatever dots you need to or not.
I got it.
That's all.
Let's move forward.
From forced sterilization to microchipped IDs and predictive policing, the architecture of the New World Order is being built in front of our eyes, brick by digital brick. And unless we wake up, we won't even realise the cage is complete until the door slams shut. Here are the people's voice. We're determined to continue exposing the crimes of the elite, but we need your help.